Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live and the Extraordinary Advisor Show. My name's Ellen Rogin, and as always, I bring in exceptional guests to come talk with us about ways for you to grow in every area of your life, especially your business. And today is absolutely no exception. We have Marc Bautis here with us today, and I met Marc when he was part of our Extraordinary Advisor Masterclass last fall. And as I've gotten to know Marc, I'm incredibly inspired by his expanding the ways he approaches his business, trying new things, sometimes which he shared have been a little bit outside his comfort zone, but all with the goal of expanding his reach, his influence, his impact, and I'm sure his income as well. And so Marc's going to talk with us today about just how he does that. And just to give you a little bit of background on Marc Bautis is the founder and owner of Bautis Financial. It's a wealth management firm located in Montclair, New Jersey. He's had over 20 years in the financial services industry. He's a host of a really great podcast called The Agent of Wealth, which I love the title. I think it's really cool. And the author of the book, The Retirement Fitness Challenge. So Marc, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Ellen. It's great to be here.
So what I really want to talk about with you, Marc, is how you have approached your business and tried things that maybe have felt a little bit outside your comfort zone, but you knew it was worth the try anyway. So maybe we could just start with your podcast, because I think a lot of advisors think like, hey, should I start a podcast? Should I do it? It's too confusing. I don't know what I'm going to do. Will my compliance department have an issue? Like all these reasons. And so maybe you tell us a little bit about your journey with your podcast.
Sure. And I think, just in that theme of doing things outside of my comfort zone and trying to, really grow, it's really, I don't remember where it came from, but someone said you have to do things that are hard, do things that are difficult, do things that others aren't willing to do. I'm about 15 miles, my office is about 15 miles west of Manhattan, and there are an enormous amount of financial advisors in this area. And so I figured I have to do something that separates myself, even if it's something that it's uncomfortable for me to do and something that is new. And the podcast is an example of that. I'm introverted by nature. But, going out on a podcast, recording, interviewing people, it's definitely was difficult at first because it was just really unnatural. My degree in college is in math. I'm used to numbers and really working on that aspect of the business. But I figured I need to improve my communication skill, improve my ability to talk to people, to understand people. And what better way to do that than start a podcast? So it's something I started about 3 years ago. The name Agent of Wealth kind of comes from a couple different areas. One, I'm a James Bond fan. Two, I worked with a lot of people in the real estate space. So the name is a play on that. And it's something that I stuck with over the past couple of years.
So what was that? Are you someone who's like a DIY person that you love, like learning about things, or did you get someone in to do consulting with how to set up the podcast? Because there's some logistics besides you putting yourself out there to just do that.
Yeah, there are definitely logistics. And I would say like the idea to do the podcast probably started about 2 years before I did it. And the logistics are probably part of it, is that I didn't know what goes into recording audio, what goes into editing it, and all the publishing of it and all that. So I kind of froze and I didn't do it. Plus, I'm sure there was some reservations on my side of putting myself out there doing the podcast. But yeah, I brought a consultant company in, and they were actually like a podcast in a box company where they help you, everything from they facilitate the interview. So basically every episode was the host interviewing me. We picked the topic. I kind of built out the outline, and the host interviewed me, and they would then take it from there. Everything from, publishing it, creating it, editing it. And they were great, but I wanted a little bit more. I wanted to really use the podcast as an asset for, a marketing asset, a content asset. I wanted to do a little more customizing than, was kind of in that box with, making a website out of it, taking the transcript and cutting it into different pieces, making some audiograms, and really using that as one of the key, content pieces for my firm. So after I think it was about 30 episodes, I basically took control of the podcast, and since then have been, running the episodes internally.
And do you have a team internally that helps with that, or how do you manage it all? Because that's a whole, I would imagine, time-consuming thing, and yet you're, of course, running a firm and seeing clients. How do you balance that?
Yeah. So, like you said, it is time consuming. There's 4 people on my team. So we have another advisor, a CSR power planner, and then a content communication and marketing specialist on the team. And one of the things we do is we really have a checklist of, okay, this is what needs to happen if to create, publish, promote our podcast, and it's a list of steps. And basically, we say, okay, we're ready to do episode 65. We click a button in our CRM, and it just puts all the list of tasks out there. It assigns them to people, and it puts dates on them, and we all take little parts of it. Sometimes the episode is myself solo talking on it. Sometimes I have another person in the firm on to talk. We talk about a specific topic, and then sometimes I have an external guest on. And then after that, there's the editing of the audio and the actual publishing it that different people on the team take part of. So yeah, it definitely is a group effort, and it definitely does take work to, build it into like that asset that I was talking about.
So talk a little bit more. You mentioned you have checklists and your CRM. Sounds like there's workflows in that. I imagine you use that for other things in your firm as well. Can you talk a little bit about the ways that you systematize parts of your practice?
Sure. Yeah. I started the RIA in 2009. And for the first, I think like 5 years, I was a solo practitioner. It was just me, not even any assistants, anyone else in the firm. And I think it was a couple books that I read. One of them was The Ensemble Practice. Another one was called The Checklist Manifesto. And something clicked where I said, you know what, if I'm going to scale, I better figure out how to kind of systematize the different things that we do. And, as I started doing things after that, I started writing down, procedures, and I would call them these standard operating procedures. One summer I brought in a couple of interns, and, we looked at everything that, anyone in the firm was doing, which at that time was me. And we said, let's document it. We know we want to grow. We know to scale, we're going to have to add people to the team. And we want to make that transition or that onboarding of the new people on the team go as smooth as possible. So we looked at these little processes, and we put down screenshots. We recorded videos that showed, okay, when someone requests a distribution, these are the steps that are involved, and this is how you do it. And that was great. And we started growing the team. And then it got to the point where we said, okay, let's take this to the next step. And we started building out workflows. I think we attended a workshop from our CRM, which is Redtail, and they were promoting workflows, and they were showing, everything from whiteboarding. This is how you build a workflow. This is how, you can break it up into whether it's one big checklist or different steps. And we said, okay, let's pick out what are the most important workflows that go on in our practice. One of them, the first one we looked at was onboarding. We want to give these clients, a great first experience with us. So we said, let's really get down the onboarding process and who does what, whether it's send an introduction video or a welcome kit, or how do we make sure if they're transferring any accounts, it goes as smooth as possible. So we created these playbooks that correlated to these workflows in our CRM. And, one thing I wanted to do was not do everything myself. I made sure that everyone on this was a group effort, and everyone on the team participated. Everyone had ideas of, okay, this is how we can do this step better, or, maybe we don't need to do this step here, but we can do it here. So yeah, it was definitely a team effort. We started with onboarding, but then it was how do we do our review meetings, and how do we do our managing our pipeline or our content. And it's not to the point where we want to make some kind of rigid process that, we all just become robots and follow it. So we were also thinking about, okay, how can we make a process where someone knows what they have to do, but also enough flexibility where someone can always think about how do we improve that process?
That's great. And I will also give you another accolade. When I had my firm, we used Redtail, and we had put some workflows in. And I don't know if it's because I brought it in later in my practice, but we never got used to using them. And would it have been more efficient if we did? Yes, of course. And we went through the time and effort to put them in, but it was an implementation thing. So I give you a lot of credit for doing that. And I'm sure it makes things go more smoothly. I don't want to let something pass that you said when you were just sharing that with us, that you send out intro videos to people. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things, if you look at, what we found is, as we're talking to a prospect, we found a lot of times they have no idea what an engagement with a financial advisor is going to look like, or what's entailed in it. It may have been they had some kind of life event where they said, you know what, I need to get some organization or structure around my finances, where maybe they had just had a baby, or they went through a divorce, or they're thinking about retiring, and they've never worked or heard about what a financial advisor does, but they think it's the right thing to do. Or maybe their uncle, or they've heard it in the some kind of ad that says you should talk to a financial advisor. So what we wanted to do with this welcome video, or this intro video, was explain what the engagement was. What are the next steps in it? One of the things we obviously didn't want is people having buyer's remorse, where they say, okay, yeah, let's move forward, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? So we wanted to be upfront. What's the communication going to look like? Who from my team is going to engage in these different aspects of the onboarding, and what could they expect? So we really wanted to do that, and we felt video was the best way. We could obviously send out an email, but we thought video was a great way to get some of our personality over to them and showing them how we interact with them.
So is that video customized for that prospect or client, or is this a intro video that you send out to everybody?
No, it's definitely customized. So we can we have, there's different aspects of maybe like our client portal that we have where we'll record a generic video, but this is we're bringing someone on. We don't want some generic video, send out a generic video. So it is definitely customized. And every engagement, I would like to think that there are a lot of similarities between the engagements, but there are definitely differences between every engagement. So whereas this person might go through these steps, another person might be a little bit different.
And is that something that you use BombBomb for? And maybe
we do, yeah. So we were looking at different, video, tools out there, and there are a lot that you can use. We've used BombBomb for probably about 2 years now, and basically what BombBomb is, it's a you can record a video, and makes it very easy to send out. We use it a lot for screen if we have to record a screen along with our voice in it. But yeah, that's been a great tool for us, and we went in kind of saying, okay, how are we going to use this thing? And we found there's a lot of different uses, and where we found it very useful.
Yeah. So my first interaction was when you signed up for the Extraordinary Advisor Masterclass. I sent you a BombBomb video, and it's really interesting to me the response that I get from people. Some people say, "Oh, that was really great." Some people have no response, and then I don't know, did they not see it, or they didn't care, or they just didn't think a response was warranted. You're the only person for all the different BombBomb videos I've ever sent out that sent me one back. So I really appreciated that. And it feels good to get those. And, a couple suggestions for any of you out there thinking about starting to use a program or a app called like BombBomb. And I know there are other ones out there. A couple of the things that I've done with them as well is when someone links with me on LinkedIn or accepts my request, I'll add a BombBomb video, or I'll add a video to a message to them. And it really surprises them and hopefully delights them. It sets me apart a little bit. After I've had a really great conversation with someone, I'll send one. I would have done this if I had used it when I had clients like that, but I'll send just BombBomb videos off my phone when it's people I know's birthday. So I've been using it personally as well, and they get a kick out of it. So
yeah, I think it goes back to that, what we were talking about do things that other people aren't doing. And that's kind of how I approach it. Is it would be easy. It would have been easy just to hit reply, write a couple words down and send it back to you. It's not easy, making sure the camera's right, making sure the background looks good, the microphone's set up. What am I going to say? But it gives the impression that it gives is a lot better than taking that easy, approach of just sending that email in that case.
So let me ask a question about that, because I think sometimes that fear of what's my lighting like? Am I saying the right thing? Is my camera okay? Keeps people from taking action. And I know some things are important, like Doug, who's our producer in the background, is very particular about sound and wants to make sure that's good. But how did you get past that, like self-consciousness and worrying about how you were coming off to just get out there and put things out in a good way?
It was definitely really difficult because, I think a lot of us we want to be perfect, and we want to be perfect in the words that we use, in how we frame something, in how we look, how we sound. But it was one of the things I think just over time I just kind of had to say, all right, I'm going to flip a switch and I'm going to send it, and it's not going to be perfect, and I'll just get a little bit better each time that I do it, to the point where I just wanted to seem natural. I didn't want to seem like I was scripted, rehearsed, so much. And BombBomb's a big promoter of that type of approach of just get out there and do it. People aren't expecting perfection, and just get something out there, and people will take a really positive approach to it.
Yeah, sometimes when mine aren't perfect, it's something I can make a joke about. Like our dog is at the office with us, and sometimes she makes cameos in my BombBomb videos. Or one time I was sending one to someone who I'm hoping is going to hire me for a conference, and our dog was crying in the background, and I'm like, okay. Especially now with people working from home, I think people are even more open or forgiving with that. And it actually, I think, shows some humanity and more personality when things aren't perfect. Would you agree with
Sure.
that?
I definitely agree. Yeah, I think it is more normal now. But yeah, I would like that BombBomb video. It has, I think it's the worst feature. After you record one, it says, "Would you like to re-record?" And I would just keep re-recording. And then, like I said, I finally had to just flip the switch and say, you know what, I'm sending it, and I'm going to send these things first cut going forward.
So one of the things I thought was so interesting that you shared with me, Marc, was that, and you mentioned this earlier, that you were I think you said you were a math major, and that when you first started in this business, you really thought it was all about the numbers, and that's shifted and transformed a little bit for you. Can you share more about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I grew up with numbers. My major was in numbers. When I first started, I thought it was all about the numbers. And then you realize that, a computer can crunch numbers a lot better than we can. And, you have to figure out, okay, where are you going to add your value to? And I think that a lot of that kind of shed light when I took your class, your master class we looked at other aspects of what goes into a financial planning engagement with someone, and how can we help someone get to where they want to go. And it was, one of the things I thought really hit home, and is something that I'm trying to use now with people I work with, is visualization. We talk a lot about money, about numbers, about, save this and get this return and this, and you can retire. And the money's great, and it's great talking about that, but it's also helping the person that we're working with figure out, what do they want to do? What's their journey? Where do they want to get to? And creating that prosperity picture was really helpful for me, myself, doing it through the class. But now I use that as a tool as I'm working with someone.
That's great. So are you actually, when you say you're using it as a tool, do you actually have them create a prosperity picture, or is it more they're talking through what their future vision is, like what their life's going to look like, or they'd like it to look like 5 years from now, or how are you actually doing that?
So it started with just talking about it with someone, and I found that some people got it, some people didn't get it. So now what I've done is try and replicate that poster. We'll start with the different cards. So I'll get sets of cards for people, and the card could be anything. And that's what we try and stress, is that whatever you say, okay, what are you looking to do? People will say, well, I want to retire at this age. But one thing that helped about that prosperity picture exercise was it really got us thinking into, most people, they'll have 2, they'll have 3 goals that they're looking to do. But just the nature of that, of going through that prosperity picture exercise, I think when I did it, I had like 8 or 9 things that I wanted to achieve. And, from there you build this map, and it's something you can look at, and it also helps keep you guided towards, this is what I want to do. This is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm saving money and doing that. So, I think it started as just talking about it, but I think the visualization, the actual, and then actually putting those pictures, and we glued them on to a poster, really helped.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just going to show, for those of you watching, this is my prosperity picture. And
definitely more than I have.
Well,
there's definitely a lot more for you.
Yeah, so I've taken other images, but I think the interesting thing for me in terms of making it more of a visual financial plan, as a CFP, I was taught like, here's the things you do for clients. Like, when do they want to retire? Where do they want to send their kids to college? And it's almost like we're giving our clients goals. And yes, most people have some type of financial independence goal. But what's cool about you doing that is it puts color around it. It
Yeah.
gets them even more excited, I think, about that goal versus, oh, I'm supposed to be planning for retirement. When our book first came out, I had done a program at the local library, and one of my daughter's friend's dad was in the audience, and he said, Ellen, all these years I've just been working because I felt like that's what I should do for my family. So someday I could retire, but I never started to think about what that might look like.
Yeah.
So, and I think the cool thing for you doing that as an advisor is A, it's a little different, but B, when you're connecting with that client's vision and goal, they're going to attach those good feelings of envisioning their future to the relationship with you. It's like you're creating this positivity halo around you because they're connecting how good they feel when they're doing that with this experience of you. What has the reaction been from your clients when you've done that?
It's been positive. I think people they really understand why they're taking this approach, why they're what they're going towards, and like you said, it's very motivating. It's very motivating. Some people have taped their prosperity picture up next to their office, in their bedroom, and it gives people motivation of why are they doing this. And so I think it's definitely had a positive reaction from people on it.
That's great. So what are some of the things that are up next for you, Marc? So you're working on the podcast, you do videos, you've enhanced your planning process. Is there something on the horizon next that you're planning for or thinking about planning for?
I think it's always trying to refine, always trying to say, how can we be better, tomorrow than we were today with all aspects of it. We're in the process of going through the Horse's Mouth webinar program, and we've used a lot. We've done, probably close to 100 seminars in libraries. And obviously over the past year, that wasn't an option. So we're big on content. We're big on, education, and the webinars have helped us, get that message out, get people exposed to us and what we're about through it. So, we'll host a webinar, and then we'll also have that webinar as an option to view from our webpage. So, we want that content. And again, like the podcast, we want to use it as an asset.
How are you getting people to attend? Like, where do you get those names from? Are they clients? Are they prospects? Are there people that don't know you before this?
So I think it's been a mix. It's been some clients, we will say, and sometimes we'll target it, whether, the first one we did was on just, an update on what happened in 2020, what we think can happen in 2021 with all the craziness. It was pretty well received. And that one kind of was a broad audience. So we marketed it from our clients to prospects to also just out on, some of the social media sites and pushed it out that way. I think, some of the other ones that we've done or we have planned are more targeted, where we might do one on Social Security or Medicare or, tax planning. And we're trying to date specific those. So, maybe around October when Medicare season really picks up, we might do a Medicare one. Or now that we're in the middle of tax season, we want to get one done before tax season, but also after tax season to promote that it's not tax season shouldn't just be a 1 month, 2 month thing. That it's something that people should be thinking about, especially with all the potential changes going on. So, like everything, we in terms of getting that audience, we're all fighting for it and trying to get in front of the people and get people to our webinars. I think one of the good things about the libraries is that they would help promote the seminar to their constituent. So that's something that we're finding. Okay, webinars are a little bit different in that libraries are local. They're limited to who lives in a 5-mile radius of the library. Webinars, we have a much broader audience, but now it's up onto us to go out and get that audience.
Yeah, well, what's so brilliant about what you're doing, and you inferred that a little bit, one of the benefits and disadvantages there's been lots of disadvantages of people, of what's been happening in the world. But from a business standpoint, I think most advisors used to think of their clients being in that 5 to maybe 20-mile radius. And now it could really be anywhere in the country. So the benefit of that is your reach can be much bigger. People are used to dealing with video, but the other side of that is the competition has increased substantially for people.
Yeah, it's definitely true. So, yeah.
So before I let you go, Marc, I don't want to let it pass that you're also an author, the Retirement Fitness Challenge. So share a little bit about what the motivation to get the book out there was and how you've used that either in growing your business or in whatever way you've used the book.
Sure. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but it was another thing I tried to do to get out of my comfort zone. Going back to it, math was my thing, numbers were my thing, finance was my thing, writing was not my thing. But I said, you know what, this could be a great tool. The motivation for doing it was I got a lot of the same questions from people that I was talking to. And I said, you know what, there wasn't the concept of writing, I guess there was, I just didn't think of writing blog posts or recording videos or podcast at that time. And the book was a way that I said, okay, if a lot of people, if I'm getting these questions from a lot of different people, I'm sure there's even more that have the same question. So I said, okay, I'll put together, an outline of what I think, someone should think about as they're preparing to retire, how to improve or how to have success in their retirement. And from there, I just worked on it. It took a lot longer than I thought it would be. Writing the draft and then the editing took as much time consuming, but very happy that I did do it. I used it as a tool. I would, back then when I wrote it, or meeting with people in person, every prospect or every person that I talked to, I would hand them a book. And, the book was great because it was probably something that they were thinking about or had questions about, but it was also like a little bit of a credibility source for me.
For sure. I think sometimes people think that authors, nonfiction authors at least, that they're going to make a lot of money off their book or it's going to do all these things. It is, and especially when you're writing something like you did, it's just a really great credibility booster and a beautiful, a little bit more expensive business card. And I think that's a great way to look at things, and good for you. I always say when people ask me about writing, I'm like, oh, it's so great to have a book. I don't know if it's so much fun to write a book for me.
Yeah, definitely true.
I think there's another one in my future, but not right away. So Marc, this has been great. I mean, I just love everything that you're up to. I love how you're out there really stretching yourself and doing it really in service of your clients and your business and your team and of course you and your family. If people want to learn more about you, where should they go? Or if they want
best place is my website, which is bautisfinancial.com. And like I said, anyone has any questions about things that I've done, I'd be happy to talk to them.
That's so generous of you. Thank you. And thank you for being here with us today. It was total joy and pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thanks, Ellen. It's been great.
And for all of you out there listening, thank you for being here. If you're watching this live or shortly after it's live and you want to join us this afternoon, I'm doing a webinar with Horse's Mouth about the mindfulness advantage. And if you don't think you have time for this, then you should actually be there. I was joking earlier, I have a lot on my plate this week, and I am so excited to lead this webinar because not only will you get great value about knowing why it's so important in your business to be more present, more mindful, and how to use it as an advantage in your business, but here's the secret. I need it too today. Yes, I do. So please join us there. And as Marc mentioned, he was in the Extraordinary Advisor Masterclass that last fall. We have another class starting next week. If you are interested in increasing your income, your influence, or your impact, or all three, join us there. I'm so excited about leading this. I know that it's a program that will help you in every area of your business and your life and put purpose into it. And most importantly, serve people that you're meant to serve in an even bigger way. You can find out more about that at horsesmouth.com/masterclass. And as always, my question for you is, how big of a positive impact are you willing to make? Remember to